Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. As Julie said and Sarah said, we would like to welcome you on behalf of the library. I'm not an employee of the library, but I'd like to welcome you here anyway. My name is Dina Murphy, and I'm the director for pre-kindergarten services with Gaston County Schools. And I have two of my friends here tonight who are going to help with this presentation. You're here tonight to learn more about how to know that your child is ready for kindergarten, right? So you're in the right place at the right time. We thought it was important to bring this presentation to you tonight because kindergarten has changed. I don't know how many of you attended kindergarten when you were 5 years old, but things have changed a lot about kindergarten. We've learned a lot about how children really learn to read. And so we wanted to bring that information to you tonight because all the teachers in North Carolina from pre-K through the 5th grade have been undergoing a year-long training called Letters. And we've really been refreshing our skills and learning more about what the science tells us about how children learn to read. So we're going to be sharing some of that information with you tonight and some tips. I'm going to be manning the screen as well, and we're going to be very informal, so if any time during any one of us speaking, if you have a question, feel free to just raise your hand. We aren't going to be formal about this tonight. If you haven't already registered your child for kindergarten, now is the time. You can do that by going to the Gaston County Schools website if you're interested in public school kindergarten. Your child has to turn 5 on or before August 31st, but you can create an account there on the website and do the registration. I want to start tonight by introducing a friend of mine that I met. Miss Loretta Harrington was a preschool teacher when I first met her. She's currently a kindergarten teacher at Bessemer City Primary. She's one of the best, and I have watched her work with preschool and kindergarten students for several years now, and she's fantastic. So Loretta is going to talk to you tonight, or Miss Harrington is going to talk to you tonight a little bit about what kindergarten looks like today.
Okay. Well, as Miss Murphy said, I'm Mrs. Harrington, and I teach kindergarten at Bessemer City Primary. I've taught kindergarten there for 6 years, and before that I did 6 years in pre-K. So I love the little kids. It's such a joy, but just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what we do when they come to kindergarten, kind of what we expect, because it is a lot more rigorous than what it used to be. We hit the ground running when they come in the door those first days of school. But, you know, of course, we're going to assess letters, like to see what letters they know. If they know any letter-sound correspondences, we assess that. We assess like how they use books. Do they know how to hold a book? Do they know how to turn the pages? Do they know any features of the book, like the difference between pictures and words? So just some of those experiences with books for your kids are so important coming into school. We see if they can write their name. If they can write their name, that's great when they come in. If they don't know that, of course, we teach them that. Do they know the letters in their name? Can they name all the letters to spell their name? And one thing we do a lot in kindergarten, and we assess them on this coming in, and a lot of them haven't had experience with this, so they don't know, but we see, can they tell us the sounds in words? Like if I say the word sun, can they say s, n? You know, and so we start out, you know, gradually with that. We really work on letters and sounds the first 9 weeks, and yeah, you're going to get a handout that has just what we expect them to learn, like the first 9 weeks, the expectations, the second 9 weeks, the third 9 weeks, and then the fourth 9 weeks, because that's the grading system that we follow in the schools. They'll get a report card every 9 weeks. So there's some good information on that handout, and all the skills progress, like everything they learn the first 9 weeks, then it moves on for the second 9 weeks and progresses, because at the beginning we're focused more on like beginning sounds in words, like can they tell us that bus begins with the b sound? Can they tell us that bus and bag begin with the same sound, that they both begin with b? And we do rhyming words, breaking words into syllables, all those things. So just like She gave lots of good programs here at the library. Take advantage of those this summer. That's really going to help your child going into kindergarten. And I had so many memories as you were talking because my own children are 13 and 16 now. But when they were small, I mean, we were involved with all the library programs, story time, they've done Lego Club, and there's so many good things here because socialization is very important for the kids too coming in. Can they function with other kids around them? Can they follow directions from an adult? So those are all just important learning experiences for them coming into kindergarten. So.
So my job is to get the kids ready to go see Miss Harrington and other kindergarten classrooms. And this is a goal sheet that another teacher had developed, and then I kind of tweaked it to work for my classroom. So this is something that you can kind of go by if you have pre-K kids or kids coming up for pre-K. And it can be informal. And what I do is I introduce this to the kids as soon as they walk into the classroom. We usually fade in half and half, and the kids get introduced to this from day one. This is the one that's actually posted in my room. I took it off the classroom wall. It's in their homework folders. The parents are introduced to it, and they see it all the time. If you was to come to my classroom today or tomorrow and ask the kids what this is, they know what it is. If you was to look in their folders right now, they would, you see white stars. They actually have, if they've met a goal, they've placed the star on there themselves. So if you look at the first one, it says, I can write my name. So by the end of the school year, by now, every single child in my class knows how to write their name. Not only their first name, but their last name as well. And so that is a biggie. Knowing that fine motor skills, holding a pencil correctly, any writing tool will help them in kindergarten. Because if they can write off the bat, that's huge for them. And so piggybacking off of the second one, knowing all 26 letters from the uppercase and the lowercase is the last goal. Starting out knowing how to write their name, their first name. My name is Allison, Allison. How many letters is in that name? Look at your child's first name. Knowing how to spell their first name and knowing those letters in their first name is huge. I got 7 letters in my name. Take away the 2 doubles, that's 6 letters already of the 26 letters of the alphabet. That's big. There's so many kids that come in and don't know how to spell their first name or knowing those letters. Start with your child's first name. So that's automatically. So their second goal, colors. There's so many kids that can't even know their colors. So make sure working on colors. Counting to 20. And a lot of this stuff, a lot of things that parents don't understand is you don't have to sit down at a table and just do this stuff. So many things can be done just riding down the road, at restaurants. It doesn't have to be screen time. So many kids are on tablets all the time, and it takes away from family time. You can be doing things at the park. What color's that tree? There's green, there's brown as the trunk. In the fall, there's orange, there's reds, there's yellows. So there's so many things you can do, not just sitting at the table thinking that it has to be academically, make it fun. Another goal is identifying numbers 1 to 10. Just because your child can count 1 to 10 doesn't mean they know what a number 1 looks like or a number 3 looks like or a number 4 looks like. So actually identifying the numbers. I can count syllables. You know, how many, like for my name, Allison, I have 3. Allison. So knowing how many syllables are in your name. I can rhyme. You know, pre-K kids can rhyme. A lot of times parents think that pre-K is just play, but it's not. We actually do rhyming and stuff. This one is kind of a little confusing because it did say sight words, but we don't really do sight words in pre-K. But it's I can read my friends' names. So you wouldn't necessarily have to do friends since you're doing this at home, but it's do your family. You can identify your family's names, not just brother, sister, mom, dad, grandma. Actually, your names. What is mommy's actual name? What is daddy's actual name? What is sister's actual name? And then take it another step. How do you spell mommy's name? How do you spell daddy's name? And then talk about each of those letters. So then you're tagging back into the capital letters, your lowercase letters, all that letter identification. Their birthday. It's huge if they know their birthday. Actually listening to a story and retelling about it, that helps with memory. I can count and tell how many. That's all quantity and stuff. Shapes. How many times do you stop at a stop sign? There's an octagon right there. There's introducing stuff to your child there. There's the color red. How many letters is on that? You got a STOP. Look at all those different learning opportunities. I can complete a pattern, and then the next one is make your own pattern. And letter sounds. There's that one that Ms. Harrington talked about, knowing the sounds of a word and letters. Your address, knowing what where they live. This one here is I can write in the room. That's something we do in class. We put different words around the room, and they take a clipboard and they write the room. And so like we're doing recycling, then we have the word earth, we have bottles, we have plastic and stuff. So you can actually do this to help your child with fine motor skills. If they eat cereal, every kid eats cereal, right? Let them write the word of the cereal. There you are. You're exposing them to fine motor skills. You're helping them with letter recognition, things like that. Is there a word, is there a letter in their name? There's so many different opportunities. And then identifying the first sound of a word. What does ball, ball, what does it start with? And then I can have them draw a story and then tell you about it. And then knowing your lowercase letters. So when I showed Miss Harrington this, she's like, if a child came into my room, basically knowing just half of these things, it would make them so successful in kindergarten. So pre-K is so much different than what it used to be. And so this is what pre-K is all about. So take this and run with it with your child. There was another sheet that I had found. It's the a literacy walk. Is that what it's called? A literacy walk. So just going, if you're outside, take that. There's so many different things that you can do just by being outside with your child. So learning can be fun. It doesn't just have to be, sitting at a table and being academic. So those are some ideas of how to get your child ready for kindergarten.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Thank you. I told you I brought two of the best with me tonight. So how many of you can actually remember how you learned how to read? Does anybody have a memory of it? I'm old, so I remember back in the day when we had the old SRA kits, and we would go up to the kit and get a story out and read it, and they were leveled. So some of you may remember something like that. The old Basil readers, the Dick and Jane stories that, those were really old. But you may or may not remember how you learned to read, because for some children, it happens almost naturally without a whole lot of effort. And then some children need more systematic instruction in learning those letter sounds and exploring words and breaking down words through phonics. And then some children have what we know of as dyslexia, which is where they struggle with the words in print on the paper. So they need a lot more instruction and a lot of practice. But most of us fall in that middle category where we either learn pretty naturally how to read, or with a little bit of basic, broad instruction, it came to us pretty quickly. This year, as I mentioned before, every teacher in North Carolina who teaches pre-kindergarten through the 5th grade has undergone training in what they call LETRS, L-E-T-R-S. It stands for Language Essentials for Teaching, I forgot the acronym. This is why we use too many acronyms in education, but it has to do with teaching reading. How about that? So I thought it would be helpful, since things have really changed about what we know, teaching children how to read. I thought it would be helpful to bring that to you parents tonight. So I want you to sort of erase your mind for what you think you know about how kids learn to read. You're probably accurate on some of that, but there's some new things that we've really learned that sort of act in reverse than what you and I may have known growing up. So there are going to be some words in here that you don't need to take away from tonight, but I wanted to introduce them to you. So phonological awareness has to do with the sounds that letters make and the sounds of words. So before we even start to think with children about what a letter looks like, we want to explore sounds with them. So phonological awareness is identifying and manipulating larger parts of spoken language, such as words, syllables. You heard Allison say Allison has 3 syllables in her name, and onsets and rhymes. Again, these words themselves are not important. But what is important is that you know that things like rhyming, remember the old nursery rhymes that, we grew up, the Mother Goose rhymes? We don't talk about those so much anymore, but my goodness, bringing rhymes back to children through songs and finger plays and things like that gives them a good practice with listening to how words sound. So rhyming, the pig has a wig. Syllables, I can clap the parts in my name. Even preschool children, we start to talk about syllables with them and how we break words into pieces. Onsets and rhymes, that's just a phrase that means how letters and sounds work together. And again, we're not thinking about what the letters look like. When you're at this stage of messing around with words with your child, you don't need to have them identify the name of the letter. At this point, it's just hearing it. What do you hear? S, that sound, the S sound. They don't need to see the S, they just need to explore the sounds of it. And when you're reading or talking to your children, even your voice intonation, the rise and fall of your voice is something for them to attune to. Because when you're reading a story, Miss Tracy at story time, she doesn't read a book like this. The cat and the hat went to the mat. She's, using the intonation of her voice to make it come alive for children. So that's important too. Now, how many of you know the ABC song, the alphabet song? Everybody in here knows it, right? So if you're singing the ABC song, you normally would sing it like A, B, C, D, E, right? I won't burden you with the whole thing. In this stage of a child's development, guess how we want to teach the alphabet song? Phonetically, how it sounds. So we want to sing A, B, K, D, E, F, G, H, I, and so on and so forth. I won't go through the whole alphabet for you, but that's what phonological awareness is. Don't need to know what the B looks like, just what is that sound that the B makes. Then, thank you, then we go a little bit deeper. So phonological awareness is all that sound stuff with words and letters. Phonemic awareness is the ability to notice, think about, and work with individual sounds. So if I were to say the word mat, boys and girls, listen carefully. Mat. What's the beginning sound that you hear in the word mat? Right? You want to say the sound. And you want to point out to children, look how my lips go together when I say Okay? And then we can play around with the words by saying, if I take the away and put a p in its place, what's the new word? Who said it? Pat. Yes. So we're substituting sounds. That's how you play around with children and words. Not letter identification just yet. It's about the sounds and the rhythms and substituting letter sounds and things like that. Then we get to phonics, and I'm sure you've probably heard the word phonics at some point. There has always been a debate about reading instruction. You either taught phonics or you taught what they call whole language, which is just immersing children in books and literacy activities. Well, what we know now is it takes both. It takes the read aloud, it takes the playing around with the language, it takes exposure to lots of different books, but it also takes phonics. We have to teach the sounds, and phonics adds not just the sound of the letter, but now the graphic, the actual written letter. So when you're talking about teaching phonics, it's not just the sound of the letter or letters, because if you have a blend like SH says sh, those are two letters that make one sound. That's what phonics is. It's showing them or exploring with them the sound, and then this is what the letter or the combination of letters looks like that makes that sound. You with me? So you start with the big, how does language sound? Then you play around and manipulate sounds, take them away, substitute them. Then you introduce what the letters actually look like. And as I said, they can be letters that make one sound together, or they can be the individual letters. Yes, ma'am. So we're going to take, this is my favorite part of the whole presentation, we're going to take a little peek into Miss Harrington's classroom through this video. So what she did is took some of these practices that we just talked about, and she's showing you in her kindergarten class what that looks like. And you just did this, what, about a week or so ago? So this is in the spring of the year, what your kindergarten child will be able to do a year from now.
E. Trees. O, I. Sled. Oop. Group. Now, I will say a word, you say the word back to me, and then I want you to tell me the sounds that you hear. So say flow. Flow. Tap the sounds in flow. O. Flow. Say brush. Brush. Tap the sounds in brush. Brush. Say grass. Grass. Tap the sounds in grass. Grass. What's that last sound? Ass. Grass. Say storm. Storm. Good. Say black. Black. Good. Now we're going to listen for the middle sound that we hear in a word. So I'm going to say a word. You say the word back to me and tell me the sound that you hear in the middle. Remember the first sound? You can say it quietly and then tell me the middle sound. So say knock. Knock. Ah. Wrote. Good job. The sounds in chin. Chin. Slide the sounds in chin. Touch your green chip. What's the first sound in chin? So that would be what letters? C-H. Touch your yellow. What's the sound? I. What letter? I. Touch your red. What's the last sound? N. What's the word? Chin. Good. Slide your chips back down. Say chap. Chap. Tap the sounds in chap. Chap. Slide the sounds in chap. Good. Touch your green chip. What's the first sound in chap? So what letters? C-H. What's the yellow? So that is A. What's the red? P. What's the word? Chap. Good. Slide your chips back down. Say chip. Tap the sounds in chip. Chip. Slide the sounds in chip. Chip. Good. What's the first sound in chip? So that is C-H. What's the next sound? N. What letter? I. What's the last sound in chip? What letter? P. What's the word? Chip. Everybody like chips? Yeah. I need voices off so that you can hear this sound. This is a quiet sound. Look at my mouth. Right, the letter that says on your board. Jonathan, what letter? F. Good. Erase. Here's the next sound. O. Iris, what letter? L. Good. Erase. Here's the last sound. O. Aiden, N. What letter?
W.
W. Good job. Nice and neat. Erase. Next we are moving on to words. So I'll say the word, you say the word. We're going to tap the sounds, and then you write the sounds that you hear in the word. Here's the first word, wed. Wed. Tap the sounds in wed. 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 Write the sounds that you hear in wed. Evie, have a seat. What is that last sound in wed? Show me your boards. I'm going to check and make sure you have a D at the end. Good. I see D's. Wed. What's the word? Wed. Good. Erase your board. So a little disclaimer about that video. Just keep in mind that that is spring of kindergarten year. We do not expect them to be able to do that stuff coming into kindergarten, but that just kind of gave you a little peek into how we progress through the year. And at this point in the year, they can do that because of what we started with. And we do start with the sounds. We introduce the letters with the sound first, and then we go into the letters. But that's what your child will be able to do in kindergarten by spring of next year.
I know, that's amazing, right? I mean, then they definitely know the routine and they know. But to Ms. Harrington's point, that's not where they start on the first day of kindergarten, but that's where they end up. Now, what's the purpose or the value of understanding about letters and sounds? Really, it is, the research has, we've always known this, I'll be honest. We've always known that phonics was important, but at different point, I've been around for a long time, so I've seen the pendulum about how we learn to read swing back and forth. But I think we're now at the place where everyone agrees that it takes learning about letters and sounds in addition to lots of great read aloud experiences with books that really helps children learn to read. So phonemic awareness instruction, which is what you've been looking at, helps children learn to read, helps children learn to spell, and is most effective when children manipulate sounds and letters together. So playing around with our letters and sounds and words. Phonemic awareness instruction can help essentially all children learn to read. So every child is getting reading instruction in kindergarten that's made up of these components and is going to look very similar to what you saw in Ms. Harrington's class. Now, I have a couple of resources that I want to point out to you. The first one here is the essential components of reading. And basically, it's just reviewing the things that I just shared with you. That this graphic here, let's see if I can move it up a little bit. This graphic here shows us the 5 essential things that you need for reading instruction. 1, phonemic awareness, so understanding the sounds and the letters. 2, the phonics. What do the written letters look like that go with those sounds? 3, vocabulary. 4, fluency. You know, when you read, your fluency is when you're reading something and it's not broken or jagged. Like you're reading the sentence with relative speed. Like, you know, my cat likes ice cream. I mean, the weirdest sentences that you come up with off the top of your head when there's a crowd in front of you. My cat likes ice cream. If I'm reading that without fluency, it might sound like, my cat likes, so it's, you can tell that the child is not really fluent in their reading if they're kind of broken like that. All 4 of those pieces help a child's comprehension, which at the end of the day, that's what reading is to do. It's in order for us to make sense of the world and understand the world and enjoy literature and songs and all those things that are great. It depends on our comprehension. So a fluent reader has higher comprehension levels. A child with a larger vocabulary has an easier time learning how to read. I mean, it makes sense. If you've never been to the fair and your teacher's reading a story about the fair, sure, you can get some meaning from the pictures and from the words that he or she is reading. But if you've been to a fair and you know what that looks like, sounds like, smells like, feels like, your comprehension of it is better. So that's why we say things like, at this point in your child's development, from birth to 5, the more experiences you can give them, you're growing the vocabulary. The more you can talk to them, ask them questions, let them ask you questions. The famous phrase of a 4-year-old is why. I mean, that's what they always want to know. Why? And it'll drive you crazy as the parent or the caregiver, but it's really a valuable thing for them to be asking and have that conversation back and forth with them. So that is a good website just to give an overview of the components of reading. And then I just wanted to highlight again, and I know this is a hard one, but children are in front of screens and tablets way, way, way too much. And there are some good pre-academic programs out there that you can get on a tablet. There are some good TV shows that really build a child's literacy. But the best way to do that is by firsthand conversations, reading real books, asking questions, and labeling objects, events, and feelings. And I want to take one moment to say something about feelings. So kindergarten and preschool, for that matter, in addition to teaching your child how to read, which is what we want them leaving kindergarten being able to do or ready to do, the social emotional learning how to be a friend, learning how to share, learning how to express the words for feelings. I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I feel sad. Children need labels for those feelings, and that's part of the readiness that you can do at home with them as well. Talk about your feelings and how your body feels when you're mad, and what do you do when you're mad, and how are you a friend, and how do we share. All of those social experiences are an important part of preschool and kindergarten too. So all of these things really help a child learn how to read. So what can you do at home? Lots and lots of things that we've already mentioned. Singing, rhyming, clapping out sounds, clapping out syllables, reading to your child and with your child all the time is a great gift to give them. Play around and manipulate sounds and words just like we've been doing tonight. Take away the substitute a p. What's the new word that you have? And children love to do that. They don't think of it as, they think of it as a game. So they love to do that. Build words out of letters that you cut from magazines or newspapers. Practice writing letters and making sounds using a finger to write in the sand, or I think Julie said Jell-O or shaving cream or whatever fun medium you want to use. Help write out a grocery list. And it's not about, when they're 4 and 5, it's not about whether they spell it correctly. And that's why we call spelling in these early years, sometimes I refer to it as ear spelling. I don't necessarily, at this point, I don't need for you to spell the words correctly, but if you can sound the word out and make a mark on the paper that represents that sound, even if it's not spelled correctly, then you're really practicing your phonics because you're practicing those letters and the sounds that they make. The correct spelling will come with more experience and practice. Label items around the house, write notes to each other. They can do that with family, friends, whatever. And then I just have I think 2 more slides just to show you some resources. The best one on this slide, if you don't look at any other resource tonight, the best one is this top one called Read Right from the Start. I actually use this with teacher training too, but they have for free, you can create a family account, and they have put all these great resources out there for free for families. So you just sign up with your email address, and you can go in and get printables to use with your kiddos at home. You can actually take free classes that help explain to you what phonological awareness is and activities that you can do. You can personalize it for the age of your child. It gives you the milestones, like what to expect from 2 months up to 5 years. What should your child be able to do at those different age markers? And also some videos that you and your child can watch together. So this is my favorite resource. This is the family section. The teacher section, like I said, I've used many times. I know Ms. Gibson is familiar with the Cox campus because it's really good training and it's free. So that's a fabulous resource. There's a toolkit here, Transitioning to Kindergarten, that just gives some resources, again, for families. That's a good one, too. Reach Out and Read is a program that also has resources for family, book ideas, and helping parents understand the milestones of literacy development and so on and so forth. So all three of those are really good sites. And then lastly, and you can actually get this resource on the Gaston County Schools website. We have I guess you could call it an electronic booklet called Kindergarten Here We Come on our website through Gaston County Schools on the pre-K department. And it just gives tips like we've just talked about tonight. And at the end of the resource, there is a list of books about going to school. And so this summer, it would be great to either come to your public library and get some of those free books about going to kindergarten and start talking with your child about that. This is a major transition in your child's life, and if you're a parent, it's a major transition for you too, sending that baby off to big school. So it's a big deal, and the more you can prepare your child, trust me, you're in turn preparing yourself for it too. So I think that's all we had for tonight.